Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of our live market overviews of the Crypto Society. You're joined today by myself, Pumpeye, and Bilo, the former bear, who is now a bull. Good afternoon, Bilo.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pumpy. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Very excited about what we're seeing in the markets.
I was just about
So,
to say that it's a lot easier to feel good now that the market is starting to pick up, isn't it?
definitely, definitely. We'll start off where we always do. Just a quick recap of what we've seen over the past few months, 6 months. So we've done this grand cycle, Elliott wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ending with the fifth wave as a ending wave diagonal, which is a very bearish sign. Finished the completion of an ABC with a 1.618 extension. It was a perfect bounce off of approximately 30K. And since then, we've been hovering around in this channel. This is the channel that many have been looking to and trying to compare and follow with respect to the Wyckoff theory accumulation, which we're looking at right now. So if we were up here on the all-time high of Bitcoin, came down, bounced, and have been in this channel ever since. This particular event here, referred to as the low volume sell-off, is what was identified. And then somewhat people kind of weren't sure anymore, but this was identified as this point here, which happened on the 21st of June, more or less. Let me see. Yeah, 22nd of June, where we dropped to 27.8. Since then, we've gone back up and had this test here, which if we compare back to the Wyckoff theory, this is that test. And as you know, and as you can see on the chart, we've made it to the top of the channel, which is where we are at the present moment. So obviously, everybody looking at this and comparing to the Wyckoff theory, the accumulation, what comes next is definitely up. So we've said this before, although this looks very good, and we also have been watching this carefully and commenting on it every week, it is very obvious, and everybody in the crypto world is eyeing this for a potential bullish impulsive move to the upside. Now, does that mean that there's the opposite that's going to happen because it's too obvious? Well, nobody really knows. One thing we're cautioning you here at Crypto Society is just to be careful, not to go all in just because it looks like it's following the pattern. Everything else does point to bullishness. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be bullish. I just caution you not to be bullish just because you see this pattern following Wyckoff. Have your different reasons for your setup if you're going long. And I can give you some of those reasons right now. If we take a look at the chart again from a macro perspective on a weekly scale, just to take a look at what happened and where we are, I'll just adjust my chart a little bit so it's clearer. This is the previous grand cycle I was referring to with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ABC, and where this was wave 1. And the reason this is wave 1 is because this was the Black Swan event. And once we recovered back to where we started, more or less, we went into a phase where we were horizontal. We started the wave 1 there. The 618 happens to be where we retraced to and bounced from. It's also a point where obviously everybody looks to for a bounce. The golden pocket is somewhere where most traders will look to buy. And so you can bet that as we were coming down here, buy orders were being set up here, which explains the bounce. There also happens to be 1.618 extension, as I mentioned earlier, from the ABC correction that we saw. So why is that so important? It's because if the majority of traders and the majority of people that trade Bitcoin are looking for the 618 to hold as a sign for them to enter the market and to hold, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy like anything else, like any other indicator. It's not magic. It's just that there's enough people that believe in one particular thing that when it does happen, it increases the reasons for those people to hold or to continue to be long. So there's very, very, very strong and excellent support in this area. Not long ago, I mean, a week or two ago, many were saying we're going down to these levels and we're going to crash to 20. And then, nobody really knows. I mean, nobody can predict because it's not something that TA will necessarily always give you the answer to. Because a lot of times there's fundamental analysis, or not analysis, excuse me, but news that comes out that can sway the market both in the positive and in the negative direction. I mean, that's the reason why we saw the sell-off from here. There was a lot of bad news that came out, which today is behind us, and the market has moved on and adapted. One of the news was that miners were going to have an exodus out of China, which we at Crypto Society at the time told everybody that this was actually a good thing, because 67% of the world's mining was happening in one location, which is China, which is not very decentralized when you come to think about it. So this mass exodus out of China resulted in mining startups all over the world. Maybe it's the same miners that just moved. Maybe they sold their equipment to others. There's a combination of. But the fact that it's going to become, Bitcoin is going to become mined in a more decentralized fashion is obviously a very good thing for the space. So while this sell-off happened and the accumulation phase within this zone occurred, if you go on chain, and we'll try to do a little bit of on chain, and this is again something that we're trying to do more of in future episodes. We're also learning ourselves. If you go on chain, you'll see that there's a major amount of whales accumulating in these regions. And usually that is an extremely positive sign. And when whales are accumulating, you want to accumulate. So if you have a way to be able to track what whales are doing and what institutions are buying, most of the time you'll end up with a winning trade. So we'll get into that a little bit later. One thing that is very interesting is we're looking at Market Cipher B. This here is Market Cipher B. This is a paid indicator that we have. And Market Cipher B has a lot of different signals. It incorporates MFI, it incorporates VWAP, it incorporates a whole bunch of other signals. But if you guys see this green dot right here, this is a buy signal that is an algorithm inside Market Cipher B, which I can't explain to you precisely how that green signal occurs, other than to tell you that this light blue area here is a leading indicator. And as it gets narrower, it means the momentum is turning up. And the last time we saw this green indicator on the weekly on Bitcoin was in April of 2020. And we all know what happened. I mean, we just had a massive bull run. So this is an extremely bullish sign. As per market indicator, we're about to start another bull run. That's fantastic. The other thing that we are also interested to look at, and I'll just go back to the 4-hour chart, or maybe the daily in this case. And my esteemed colleague, Pumpeye, has brought this up several times. Forget this wick here, guys. This wick is just, I don't know why it's showing up. It doesn't really mean anything. This is the all-time high. This is the connection of the previous peak, which was under the all-time high. And this is where we are right now. So Pumpeye's brought this up several times. This is a very important line, as we can see here. We're actually trying to decide as a market, do we go above this line or not? And there's a lot of caution around this line. And you'll always see this, guys, in anything you're trading, in any, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, anything else. Whenever you connect the all-time high to the next peak, whether it's lower or higher, that is a significant line. It's an important line to keep your attention on and to keep focus on. So we'll see what happens here, but all the indicators are telling us that this is a bullish time and that things should continue up. I personally don't think we're going to go up straight. We're gonna retrace a little bit. I mean, we have this this wave here that if we do pull a Fibonacci on, we have room. We have a lot of room to retrace. I mean, Doesn't have to go all the way here. It could retrace to here. We have these volume bars indicate a lot of support below 40,000. I mean, it gets bigger as you go lower to around 36, 37. So if I had to pick a number of a retrace, I would say we would retrace to approximately 36 to 37 before we go up. And it would be nice because you want to retrace as you go up. You want to have waves of a wave going up, a wave coming down, a wave going up, a wave coming down, because that's just how markets work. And people generally, unless they FOMO in, you don't buy a green candle, you buy the red candle. And that's what results in market waves.
So
you were saying, Pumpeye? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you want to, I don't know if you want to pull a retracement over other parts of bullish waves as we were going up in the first place, like not where we've had corrections that have
Sure.
brought us down quite a bit, but just where we're moving up a bit before we've had a correction.
Sure.
To see how far we retrace from each up
Sure.
leg
So
and then down.
absolutely. So if we take, for example, this wave right here, is this a good example, Pumpy?
To be fair, that was more of a correction that's brought us down there, but you can still see it on this one that we've come down to the 0.5. And
Which one do you want me to look at?
So, no,
Which one do you want me to look
fine.
at?
That's
Oh,
actually
okay,
worked,
okay.
That's actually worked out roughly
Yeah.
what I thought anyway.
Yeah.
I find that when Bitcoin is in a bullish momentum, we tend to only retrace to the 0.382 or the 0.5 before moving back up again. And it's different if we're not in bullish momentum, so we tend to retrace a bit further if we're not in bullish, if we're not full bull like we have been on that move upwards. So ordinarily, I think you can expect Bitcoin to retrace to somewhere between the 382 and the 5, or rather either one, because it's generally not in between. It's on one or the other.
Yeah.
Just a thought. So we might, from this point where we've hit that resistance line, we might now retrace to the 0.382 or the 0.5, which was roughly actually what you said anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
before
when we're looking at sure. So when we're looking at retracements, guys, we're not trying to guess, where it could retrace to. It could retrace anywhere. So you're looking for support regions that are confluent with Fibonacci levels, because traders, again, it's consensus, and if the majority of the traders are looking at the following indicators or signs of affirmation, well, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So if you're drawing a Fibonacci level from here to here, okay, well, definitely you want to be looking at these retracement levels, possible retracement levels, but you also want some confluence with other stuff to say, where are we going to go? So one of the biggest confluences is, as you're coming back down, where is there the most support? So depending on so VPVR shows you visible range, and why that's important is you'll see that these bars will move as I move the chart to different regions. So it shows me what I see versus the area that I want to focus on. So if I want to focus only on this area and see where is there the most support, it happens to be at around 36,000 if I'm looking at this view. And if I zoom in even further, it's going to change again. So you got to really, really be careful in picking your levels of where it can happen and where it's confluent with something else. So if we go back to Pumpeye 0.5, 0.5 is an interesting level because it's also a peak here. It's the bottom here. So around this region here, I would say, if I was to highlight it in a box, if we were to retrace right now, and guys, there's no reason why we're gonna 100% retrace at this stage, other than the only reason is we're at the top of this wave, we're at the top of the Wyckoff extension accumulation. This happens to be the top. And again, it happens to be where this descending line hits, the price action hits this descending line from the all-time high to the next peak and where we are today. So these are the reasons that make you think, okay, you know what, we should be going down. I mean, if it wasn't for this, and technically we already broke out here, I would say, of the Wyckoff, we're already above the Wyckoff accumulation. If it wasn't for this, we wouldn't even be thinking about this area being, okay, we're gonna go down here. Because if you look here, and you know what, let me just zoom out to make it more clear. But if you look here, we have a zone where there's very little resistance. I mean, there's almost no resistance. The biggest resistance for Bitcoin is overcome. It's right here. We're above it. And this is the top of wave 3. And it's gone. I mean, it's not gone in the sense that we can put it behind us, but we have conquered that zone. We have gone above 42. And that 42 is critical for us to stay above and to hover, I would say, around it. I would like to see us hover on it. I'd like to see us use it as support for a while, go up and down, test it a few times, get that comfort level that we are, we've established a strong base, similar to what we had down here. That green level here was a comfort level for me, for many, that this was, we're printing a low. I'd like to see the same thing here before we move on to the upside. And once we do, it should be a nice, strong movement because we have very little price action resistance. And for those that haven't heard the explanation of VPVR is the volume of purchasing and selling that happens at a particular price point versus the volume bars that you see at the bottom here. Let me just put them on. The volume bars that you see at the bottom here are the volume at this time. So for this candle, the volume of, in this case, purchasing power because it's green or whatnot, but ends up being green if it's a green candle, red if it's a red. But the higher this bar, the more you know that there was buying and selling at those levels, at that time, excuse me. The ones horizontally are telling you how much buying and selling happens at a particular price. So once you see this concave shape in the VPVR, there hasn't been a lot of buying and selling at those levels, meaning when do people buy and sell? They buy and sell at supports and resistances. So if you take that philosophy back to here, if there's not a lot of buying and selling in those regions, it means that there aren't many supports and resistances. Therefore, the price theoretically should soar through this region. So if we make it above this line and we test this area and everybody's happy and comfortable, you'll see 48 to 50 quite soon. Again, being cautious is very important, and things that are obvious are more reason for me to be even more cautious. When something is obvious in crypto, it's more reason for me to be more cautious. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen because the reverse psychology factor is always a factor, but just be cautious, guys.
Do you know, one of my favorite things about that chart, other than the fact that we've broken out, is those moving averages being below us and them all having had a little bit of an uptick.
This was my next point, is that it's been a while. I mean, it's been months, maybe a month or two. We've been saying this every single live TA market overview we had. There were 3 points for us to go over, 3 very important points. And everybody has their points. Everybody has their regions that they want to conquer. But we have been saying the following for a while. We needed to get above the 200 EMA on the 4-hour. So the 200 EMA on the 4-hour. Am I on the 4-hour? Yes. So we needed to get above the 200 EMA in the 4-hour, which is which was at 35.7. We went over it. Then we said we needed to get above the 200 EMA on the daily, which is 1200 EMA in the 4-hour. Okay, which we got above, and then we said we needed to get above 42K because 42K, I'll just take you back to this chart. 42K was the top of the previous grand cycle wave 3 right here. And we're now above it. So these were the 3 points for us to say we're feeling pretty good about Bitcoin. And we feel now we have a very good chance of going up. But now we have these other reasons to be bullish. We have these buy signals from Market Cipher on the daily. We have it again on the weekly, which, like I mentioned earlier, hasn't happened since April 2020. We are at the top of, oops, sorry, wrong chart, too many charts. Here we go. I'll just go back to the daily or the 4-hour. We are at the top of the accumulation. Again, keeping cautious, but we are at the top of the accumulation. Look at this line, guys. We've been following this line since May of 2021. Look at this line. I mean, you can draw the line to be perfect or whatnot, but what matters is It was resistance here, resistance, and we went above it, tested it, tested it, tested it, tested it, and then boom. And the boom happened on top of the line that was descending and at the bottom of the channel. Confluence. This is confluence. This is when we talk about confluence, it means that we're looking for more than one reason for things to be bullish. And lines, as simple as they are very powerful trading tools. Don't ever underestimate the power of a support line, a resistance line, a diagonal line. They're very powerful trading moves, even though they're very simple.
It's quite funny, actually.
Especially when you draw them thicker.
Curious just to see what's happening with dominance. So last week, we predicted that Bitcoin dominance would be going up. It's not gone up exactly the way we said it would, but essentially it did go up. As Bitcoin prices increase, Bitcoin dominance will go up. It's a simple math. It's a market cap of Bitcoin goes up, so Bitcoin dominance goes up. And usually when Bitcoin goes up, a lot of money flows into Bitcoin. And the reason why, unfortunately, for many of us, and it's very frustrating, when Bitcoin makes a strong move, alts typically suffer. The reason for this is that people sell their alts to join the Bitcoin train when Bitcoin is moving. Because most traders want to end up with the most amount of Bitcoin as possible. So they're trading alts in order to gain Satoshis, in order to have more Bitcoin. And so this is the reason why when Bitcoin is going up, that alts suffer. The only time alts really start to catch up is when Bitcoin is a bit stable, like we're seeing today. So we're looking at Bitcoin today, and over the past few days, it's, you know what, it's got this nice little consolidation right here. It's a nice little consolidation. And we see a lot of the alts are turning green. A lot of the alts are moving up. But typically, again, it's Bitcoin moves up, alts dump. When Bitcoin moves up hard, alts dump. Then the high market cap coins follow, and then everything kind of stabilizes, and then the low market cap alts boom up.
Just interject quickly.
So while you see Ethereum or Bitcoin go up maybe 5 to 10%, once it settles down, you'll see alts double sometimes. So it's a cycle that you can go back, look at, and you'll see this repeated over and over and over again. I'm pretty comfortable to say all the time. I don't know if there's been a time or sometimes where that hasn't happened, but that's pretty much the general rule. So we spoke about Pumpeye pointed out. Pumpeye, you want to talk about the VWAP on the weekly?
Actually, that wasn't what I was going to say. Could you go back to the previous chart?
Pumpeye?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
I can hear you.
Pumpeye pointed out to me just before the call, as we were looking at the weekly Bitcoin chart, that the VWAP, which is the yellow line, has turned positive for the first time since December. So along with this market cipher B buy signal, again, really interesting bullish signs for Bitcoin. Very bullish signs for Bitcoin. I mean, look at those last two weekly candles. They're just beautiful candles. So this all-time local high is around the 42K region, which is the last wave 3. And there's undoubtedly going to be some hovering in this area, if not a bit of a retrace before we continue back up, in my opinion. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, guys. Looking at ETH, taking a look at ETH.
Can you hear us, Bilo?
Pumpeye, you there?
Hello, Bilo, can you hear us? So I'm absolutely confused as to why it is that Bilo can't hear us.
So we look at ETH. Again, we have pretty much the same movement as Bitcoin. So we have the grand wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by an ABC, followed by this accumulation phase. Obviously, the big difference is that Bitcoin is here, ETH is still here, and the the concept of a Wyckoff accumulation. Bitcoin is already above the channel. ETH isn't. But like I said, Bitcoin usually does the move first, and then ETH follows. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just getting. Okay, so I'm getting a note from Pumpeye that there's something wrong with my feed.
Bilo, can you hear us now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We are
Oh,
talking
that's
to you.
true.
Had you turned your headphones down?
Okay. Maybe it was my mic.
Had you turned your headphones down?
Maybe by mistake.
So I'd said a couple of times, Bilo, can I interject quickly? And you just carried
Oh,
on
boy.
talking.
Sorry.
I was thinking,
Sorry.
he clearly thinks I'm his second missus and just has selected. So
Sorry, mate. Go ahead.
Right, just quickly, can you go back to, I think it was your 4-hour chart for a second?
On which coin?
On Ethereum.
Ethereum,
No,
okay.
on Bitcoin.
Yes.
I think it was. No, it wasn't Bitcoin. That's on the weekly.
Did you want to see the weekly?
Right. Okay.
What do you want to see?
Yes. That the blue moving average, which is that on
Yes.
your chart? What is it? Is it the 20 or the 50? Or?
It's the 55.
It's the 55. Okay, and I take it that the orange line is the 200.
The orange line is the daily 200, and the yellow line is the 200 on the hourly.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that when you see we're just about to cross here, right, with the what would you say, the 55 on the 4-hour. If you're charting on the daily and you can see the 20 is just about to cross over the 200, it's a very, very, very good buying time to buy as it's crossed over and you've closed above it, because then you know that you're going into a bullish period, and the 20 will follow up as the price goes up, and will stay above the 200 for quite some time. Not usually speaking. If you go looking back over the charts, you'll find that we've gone bearish once the 20's crossed under. I think it's the death cross, as everybody kept going on about not that long ago. This is also called a golden cross when we cross back over bullish. That was all I wanted to say. Sorry, Bilo. So
No worries. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
So looking at the chart at that point, once you see that that's crossed over and you see that we've closed over it for the first time, then that's a very good point to say, right, now's the time to buy, either with your with Bitcoin, if you want to buy into Bitcoin, or if you're looking into alts, then that's the point where you can say, okay, we're now officially bullish, and I'm going to have a look at my altcoin charts, make sure that they are not in a period of having already gone ballistic or whatever, if you want to buy in, and then you can safely assume that you're going to be in full bull run again.
Yep, good
Back
points.
to you, Bilo. So you couldn't hear us before, but DJ Town also spoke. I can't remember exactly what it was he said, but hopefully
Hey,
you can
DJ.
hear us from now on. He's the only one that's joined us on the call on Zoom. I invited him personally because
DJ.
he's usually got some interesting stuff to say.
DJ,
Good afternoon.
how are you, buddy?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Watching you and the Formula One at the same time, so it's all good.
Turn off Formula One and watch me, please. What did you have
I can
to
multi.
say? What
I
did you
can
have-
multi-fail.
What did you have to say? Does your wife believe you?
Bilo, can you see
Yeah.
here on the 4-hour, right? If you look at your RSI,
Yes.
back the 26th of August, we're all
Mhm.
good, buddy, because Batman's here.
Oh, it's true. It's true. We do have a Batman signal.
Gotham City and Batman are looking after us. We're going to be absolutely fine.
I always love to see those. Very bullish. DJ, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, if you go on, I was putting into the chat earlier. If you have a look at ETH on the daily, I think it is on the daily. There was a W pattern with an extension in there, and I think it, coming back to your retracements, it will perform a retracement on ETH and then shoot up, especially with EIP coming in.
Sure. Yeah. So it's you're
That's
right.
4 hour.
First of all, yeah. I'm just gonna
Not
erase
that it
this.
matters because you
So
can see it anyway. But
so you're referring to this here,
ooh,
right?
Yep.
And one of the things I was planning on talking about today is I have quadruple bottom, and it depends on the time frame you're in. But if you're in a 4 hour time frame, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hits at the bottom of this channel, establishing it as a decent support. Now, there's two schools of thought when it comes to supports. There's one school of thought that says if you have an area or a line where you bounce off, that's a strong support. There's another school of thought that says you test the support enough times, it'll break. So, in my opinion, these kind of tests are more support than anything else because they're not constant. We want to get down. We want to get down.
Yeah,
it's
I would
like
agree.
we go down, go up. So this is more of a real support in my opinion. Going back to DJ's point of the W on the daily. So this is, for all intents and purposes, it's a double bottom. Okay, and how do we look for the target on double bottom? And I'm just gonna kind of like just draw it out here. But a target of a double bottom, and guys, a double bottom is simply something that looks like this. Oops, that's not the right tool. Which tool is it that gives me, here we go, this. So a double bottom, for all intents and purposes, is something that looks like this. So we go back to the same region, more or less. That's a double bottom, okay? And the target of a double bottom is the distance, and we'll just draw a line connecting the two bottoms. We'll draw another line where the top is between the two bottoms. And the target of a double bottom is simply this distance. Theoretical target, we always say, because things happen. So you take this and you transpose it on top of the top of where the the W connects, and that's the target. Essentially, that's how a double bottom works. So if we try to do this on Ethereum, we would take the bottom here, all the way to here, and then we would transpose it. Oops, what did I do? What did I do? And we would transpose this on top here, and it would give us a target of $3,130. Meaning, what we're looking to see here is breaking out of this channel, and this double bottom that DJ is pointing out has a target of $3,100. That's just essentially that. Am I right, DJ?
Yep, there could be a slight retrace in
Yeah,
between as well. I think maybe
we're not going to
3%.
go straight up, but that's the theoretical target.
hopefully we'll
But then-
retest that neckline, and then I can buy some.
I'm holding off some of my purchases for that as well, but usually that means that it's going to continue to go up, or if I buy it, will go down. So which way do you want it, guys? Are you going to short? I'll buy.
Just buy the red. Buy the red. Don't buy the green. Never a good idea to buy the green.
I just buy regardless of whatever the price is when it comes to ETH.
Saying that, actually, I bought the green on GRT, and it worked out an absolute treat. When they launched, I bought the green. I saw that it was going up and just thought, you know what, this once, I'm going to take a chance. And I was relatively early, and it absolutely flew. I think I trebled or quadrupled my money. But
I missed out on proxy, which I'm kicking myself at, because on launch an hour later it dropped down from $100 or something down to $3. I was going to buy it then, and then it shot back up to 50.
yeah,
So guys, I was just playing with this earlier today. I was looking at this line, and you could draw lines to suit what your narrative, but I mean, you can argue that this was a support and that these were resistances, and finally we broke above this descending line. Similar to what we saw earlier in Bitcoin, the line that we're trying to break above and that we finally broke above. So even without looking at what's happening in ETH, if Bitcoin continues up, you know for a fact that ETH is going to follow. Many have made the argument and the case. Me, Pumpeye, several of us have made the argument that sometimes why do TA on other charts when BTC decides it all. So once BTC is doing well, everything should follow. But there are also some pretty bullish signs for ETH that we see here. We are on the way up to complete this channel, and the deciding point will be somewhere in the 2,800 region. What happens there? It's a wait and see situation. We're not gonna predict, other than it is bullish, and this double bottom does point to that $3,100 region, which just happens to be the wave B coming down from wave A. Excuse me, this A, B, C. So let's see. Let's see where we go from there. Yeah.
Just referring back to what I said before about Bitcoin, on this chart you can also see that the moving averages, they've come and dipped down just below the 200, and then as they've come back up, that point where they've come back up through, and we've broken up through your diagonal line there, you can see that confluence of those two things happening at the same time, that is probably as it breaks through that line. In fact, we've come up and we've just retested down to the line and then broken up again. That is an absolute whopper of a buying time if you're looking to get into Ethereum.
True. Not to mention that I think it's this coming week, there's the Ethereum hard fork coming up.
4 days.
4 days, baby.
Not that I'm counting. Not that I'm counting. There isn't a clock or anything else like that that's sat beside me. What will be interesting, but like you say, there will be a pullback. So the problem that we've got here is with normal TA, while it's working now, EIP 1559 will actually mess with that TA over the next week.
Did you see the...
For sure, because EIP 1159 is actually going to drive miners away, is the fear, right? Mining costs, mining revenues are going to decrease significantly with the EIP 1159. You wanted to say something, Bumpy?
Did you also see that there's been several times when it's been mentioned that there's a possibility that the miners are going to try and perform a 51% attack?
I heard this. I mean, I don't know.
Surely that's biting your nose off to spite your face.
Yeah, it is. They'll be hurting themselves. What I heard and read is that a lot of these miners are going to migrate over to other blockchains like Solana or BSC chain. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I think reduction in gas fees is just going to help Ethereum grow, because that's one of the biggest reasons why other blockchains were getting adopted. Aside from the blockchains are good blockchains and they have their own reasons to get adopted, but one thing that didn't help Ethereum is those gas fees. I mean, it wasn't long ago where just to approve a USDT on a MetaMask on Uniswap cost $70, $80. I mean, it was ridiculous.
I saw that the gas fees yesterday. I saw someone posted a gas fee of $715, I think. So I don't know if they
also depends on the size of transaction, right?
Of course, and what you're doing as well.
Yeah.
If you're staking and unstaking, I think it costs a bit more, and if you're doing complicated swaps on Uniswap, then it can also cost a bit more. I don't do complicated swaps on Uniswap.
But just back to DJ's comment, guys. Not financial advice. This is financial advice. Accumulate ETH. It's not financial advice. I'm just joking. But one of the best strategies, and it's a bit counterintuitive to what we're doing here today, which is TAing and trying to decide, or not decide, but trying to foretell what's going to happen. One of the best strategies in crypto is to just DCA into good coins, like Ethereum, like Bitcoin, like Solana, like Kusama, DOT. I mean, there's many. Sometimes just DCAing in, buying up a little bit every time there's a small dip is probably one of the best strategies out there. In fact, I don't know who shared this not long ago in Crypto Society, of someone who actually did the math on whether you bought on a regular basis Bitcoin since 2000 and I believe it was 2015. He just basically had a thing going where he did the math, where if he went in and just put an equal amount of money in Bitcoin since 2015 or 2017, I can't remember, but I mean, even after Bitcoin went down to 2-3K, he came out ahead. He came out with a handsome profit. So if you believe this space is here to stay, if you believe Bitcoin is here to stay, if you believe Ethereum is here to stay, and the other projects we feel strongly about, like Solana, DOT, and Kusama, accumulating those coins on a regular interval, just like you would for your retirement fund, put some money aside, is a good idea, in my opinion. So I too, I'm starting to think a little bit more about just regularly buying in, no matter what the price is, or try as much as possible, at least to have educated buys with the TA that I know, but still not to stop myself from DCAing in, even if TA doesn't point that way, because at the end of the day, the average of your DCAing is what's going to bring you that success in the future. Okay, so from a fundamental perspective, we've also had a lot of interesting news in the past few days or weeks. Tesla, Elon is back. Seems that they never sold any Bitcoin and that they're holding, and he's considering very soon to accept Bitcoin as a payment for Tesla. Also, the German law that came out yesterday or the day before allowing institutional funds to hold crypto, that's pretty big because German law is very, very regulated and complex, and there's a lot of red tape. So for the German government to accept the addition of crypto into institutional funds is really massive news for the space. And then, of course, you can't talk about that without talking about JP Morgan. And JP Morgan is now offering Bitcoin or crypto-related funds. So it's just the adoption is massive. Everyone, some way, somehow, in my view, in the next 5 years, will have Bitcoin in their portfolio through their banks, through their institutions, through their retirement fund, somewhere. I mean, it's going to be there. There's really no stopping this. One thing that's been very negative is the China crackdown on cryptocurrency. And I'm not talking about the miners. That's ancient history. It's done. The ramifications of this were actually positive and not negative. It's more the crackdown on anything crypto. And there's a lot of Chinese money in crypto. I mean, whether it be whales, whether it be individuals investing, China has been a strong player, and China's the people, Chinese people have been strong adopters and players in crypto. And this crackdown, I'm not sure what the result of it is and why the Chinese government is coming down so hard. It's just handicapping them because the rest of the world is in the midst of regulating crypto. But it's there, and I feel that that's negative for the space and may result in some negative consequences for the entire space because a lot of Bitcoins are held by people in China. Pumpy, do you have anything you want to take a look at?
You know what? I've mainly just been charting Bitcoin because I've been so busy. So no,
Oh,
not really.
did you want to share? Did you want to share a chart, or did you want me to look at something
that's
else?
cool. We've been chatting based on your chart. What's your favourite coin at the moment, Bilo?
I would have to say I have a few of them. One of them is DOT, one of them is Kusama, and Solana.
What
Ethereum is a no-brainer. Sorry?
What do you think is the next big thing? We've got stages of popularity, haven't we? Of like we've had DeFi season, DeFi mania. We've had NFTs have started going crazy. The gaming NFTs have started to go crazy.
Gaming is right now the biggest hype. As far as I know, gaming is right now the biggest.
Gaming tokens that you're interested in, personally?
So, yeah, there's one of the tokens that we recently invested in. It's a project called Project Seed.
Okay.
Project Seed is a gaming it's a gaming token. It's a game that's built on Solana with major backing. It's not out yet. It's still in pre-sale, private sale, seed sale. A lot of projects have delayed their launch or delayed their TGE due to the dwindling market conditions that we've seen over the past few months. But if things continue the way they are right now, I think you'll see a lot of these projects that have slowed down their launch come out, and a lot of very interesting projects in gaming. Project Seed definitely is one of them, and one that we are also really interested about and are also invested in is Star Atlas. Yep. Star Atlas is another game that's going to make it quite big. Has a lot of following and a lot of excitement about it. I mean, there's so many. I wish I knew more about gaming. I wish I was a gamer myself. I haven't gamed in a long time.
No, I know.
But there's also Axis, the game. I mean, you saw Axis was one of the most researched coins on Google and according to CoinGecko a few weeks ago. So there is this gaming hype right now. It's happening, and you see games coming out left, right, and center. Just like you saw NFTs at one point come out left, right, and center. Just like you saw when the polka hype was on, all these polka projects came out. And this is where, guys, as investors, we have to be so careful, because you really need to research the project. And this is something I'm learning to do myself. I'm not the best FA guy. I'm learning. But definitely do yourselves a favor, read a lot, see who the backers of the project are, learn about the team. What have they done in the past? Have they done anything in the past? And it doesn't mean that just because they hadn't, that it's not good. It's just better when they did. Have they done, if they've headed up a crypto project in the past. But if they're a team that have technical knowledge or technical expertise, have advisors that are on the team that can help them propel their game, if they have, or whatever project you're looking at, if they have backers, strong backers, and when I say backers, I mean money backers like venture capitalists, and you'll see all this information on the website. VCs are not stupid, guys. They will be very picky about where they put their money. So when you see a project that has a good team, good backers, a good use case, it's a good idea to invest. For sure, you could be unlucky and end up in a bear market or in a long-term correction like we've had recently, and could stagnate and slow things down. But eventually, these projects generally do well.
That's argumentably probably the most important things that you can look at for your trading, other than the charts themselves, is who the team are and what the project use case is, where it's going to hit the market. If they've got a good team, they've got a team with experience that's already done well in another area, then you couldn't ask for more, really, because you know that they've already got the knowledge and the experience to take something to another level.
Yep, absolutely. Last week, when we're looking at the Ethereum, I kind of drew this potential inverse head and shoulders, which it is, but I was expecting the shoulder to come down a little bit more, but then it just came down and bounced off of this, off of the EMA. It's the 200 EMA on the 4 hour. And just, I mean, when we talk about technical target, it just means, or theoretical or technical target, it just means, you know, if in a perfect world, a head and shoulders or an inverse head and shoulders, the target is from the head to the neckline. I mean, look at this. The target of this head and shoulders is supposed to be here. We are now here, 2600, and it's supposed to target 2763. So if we were looking for the theoretical target of this inverse head and shoulders, it would be in this region here. And this is an important, it's an interesting region because it's right in the middle of this cluster. And this cluster in the middle of it is where you would think there would be the most resistance. And in fact, that is where there's the most resistance. So this is a very reasonable short-term target for Ethereum that we could see in the next couple of days, by the way.
Looking at your
Before
chart
we,
there,
yeah.
So if you went purely rather than on pattern trading, if you went purely
Yes.
on price action and RSI, if you look down on the RSI, you've got some. But on the 15th of July, 16th, 17th of July, round about there, you've got some bullish divergence. You've also got that the RSI has come down and it's hit past the 30 line, which is a buy signal. And if you'd have bought as it had hit that 30 line, you would literally have been buying the very bottom, and you could have taken yourself from what $1,700 right up to currently $2,600 nearly, just based on price action and RSI movements and,
Definitely.
and divergences. So that's something that you should look out for, guys, to decide where your buy and sell points should be. Like right now, we've hit above the 75 mark on the RSI, which is considered a sell point. Obviously, we do go quite a bit above it sometimes, but you can also consider that maybe you won't always pick the very tops. So once we've hit past that 75 point, then any time around there is actually a good sell point if you're trading rather than hodling. And likewise, if you go below the 25 or 30, whichever one you prefer, then that is a very good buy signal. Especially if you've got divergences in place. Back to you, Bilo.
Sure. I mean, right now we see that there's a bearish divergence, which is why we're saying we should have a retrace somewhere in this region. And that retrace doesn't have to be long-lived, just shows us that things are slowing down. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go down, just that there is a slowdown and we see it. I mean, it's bearishly divergent. And just bearish divergence only means that as the price is making higher highs, the oscillator is making lower highs. That's all that means. It just indicates a slowdown in the momentum or a potential reversal. Given the magnitude of the wave we're looking at, given that we're in this channel, given that Bitcoin seems to be on its way up, I would say that we're not gonna have a big retrace here unless Bitcoin does this, has a massive rejection here and just comes down somewhere to this region that we are naming as the next support zone. Then we'll see Ethereum also follow back down, which, guys, it's not a bad thing. It's a buying opportunity. And it's really not just a saying, but you do buy red and you sell green. It's very counterintuitive, but truly that is the way to go. Buy red, sell green.
It's hilarious because you constantly see people going, should I sell when we're dying on our asses, and we are literally at the very bottom. And so, I get people messaging me saying, should I sell? We could be going to hell. We're going lower. And I'm like, no, this is the worst point you could possibly sell. If you really wanted to sell, you should have sold a week ago when we were in the green and up high. Don't be selling at this point because you'll just regret it. And I came into a situation not too long ago where I wanted to get into an ICO, and I had to, because I didn't have any money on the sidelines at that point, I had to sell to be able to buy into the ICO, and it was the market had just gone sour that day, and if I'd have sold the day before, I'd have been loving it. And so I became a victim of selling the bottom just because I wanted the money to go into a pre-sale.
Happens to the best of us.
Sad times, mate. Sad times. I said to the person who I was buying the ICO from, I was like, you know, you've just made me do something that I promised myself I would never do. I hope I never have to sell at the trenches ever again.
Yeah, it's a daunting feeling, and honestly, human psychology is what the biggest enemy is try to get beyond your instincts, and your instincts are always going to be, shit, this thing is dumping, let me sell it and maybe buy it cheaper, or let me get out of it, or and there's also the opposite sometimes, which is interesting for you to consider, is sometimes you don't want to sell at a loss. Sometimes you're in this coin and you're like, yeah, but I don't want to sell this coin at a loss. So it depends what you do with the coin you sell, because it could be that you sell a coin at a loss to get into a better project, and that project is going to get back higher before the coin you're in.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's face it, sometimes you have to just kind of like
Not
accept
manage
that
the
you
coin.
made a mistake and you bought the wrong coin. I mean, that happens to all of us. I have some coins that I honestly think back today and I'm like, why did I buy this? I can't even remember why. So, you know what? Sometimes it's good to look at your portfolio and see, okay, maybe when you bought it, there was news, there was something, there was a good reason, but is that reason valid today? And just because you're in a loss does not mean you should continue to hold the coin. Doesn't mean you have to wait for it to rebound. You could take that money that you sell the coin at a loss and put it into something that's gonna go up. There's hype around gaming coins. Put it into a gaming coin. There's hype around NFT projects. Put it into that booming NFT project. You don't have to hold on just because it's at a loss. I mean, so the argument of selling at a loss, there's two arguments for and against, and it depends on the situation and why. If it's a good project, definitely listen very carefully to what Pumpeye just said. Don't sell because you're at a loss and it's red if you're holding a good project, unless you're absolutely sure that you're selling because you're going to buy it cheaper and you have very good reason to believe that it's going to continue going down and you just want to sell it and then buy it cheaper. That's another thing. That's a trading strategy. And if you have reasons to do so, well, by all means, go for it. But if you just sell
at that point also, the best way to do that, if you do think that you're going to buy it lower, is to set yourself a stop loss rather than necessarily selling right exactly where you are, because you could be at the very bottom. Set yourself a stop loss that's just below what you would consider support at that point, or if you want to ask one of the team, then you'd find where the support is. Set yourself a stop loss just below that support, so that if price does go below that support, then it will sell for you. And then you've got the knowledge that because you've broken that support, then you're definitely going to go lower. And at that point, you consider where you would want to buy in again. So there you could use the RSI or divergences, or you could, if you're not confident with TA, then you could ask one of the team what they would consider to be an ideal buying point, and then you can buy back in with that knowledge. Sorry, Bilo.
That's okay. So just interestingly enough, I see this buy signal also on the weekly on DOT. I just want to see on Ethereum because I hadn't checked.
Ooh.
Ethereum as well. So all the market has this really interesting. And guys, this DOT, just again, I don't know how it's calculated, but I do know it appears right after this light blue region contracts, and this is a leading indicator, this light blue region here. Okay, Pumpeye has actually studied it.
I think it's after a momentum cross. So the dark blue is the lagging momentum indicator and the light blue is the leading momentum indicator. And I think it's after the point where those two momentums cross back into bullish, or like we can see there, the yellow oscillator is the VWAP, volume weighted average price. That's also crossed into the positive. So it's probably based on those.
Let me just open this up bigger so it can be clear.
Yeah.
So this is the yellow that Pumpeye is talking about right here.
So that's just crossed over the zero line, which means that it's officially bullish. And also we've got those two momentum indicators that also indicate that we're bullish. So I think it's where those intersect. That's where it creates a buy signal to say, look, this is bullish. We've turned. We're no longer going to go down. We're going up.
It's a nice indicator, guys. I mean, we bought this indicator a few months ago, and we're still learning how to use it. But the more we use it, the more we become comfortable with it, and the more we have a feel for, if you wanted to trade based on one indicator alone, it's not suggested. You always want to have confluence, but whenever we do see confluence with our other trading techniques and trading tools with this indicator, it usually works out quite well. So
the nice thing is that indicator in itself, because there's so many different elements of it, it can create confluence just within that one indicator. But yeah, I definitely highly recommend, if you were going to use it, then to use it in conjunction with the other indicators that Bilo has got there. So I also use the squeeze indicator and the Bollinger Bands for my trading. But other
Pumpeye,
than that, the MFI, the
let's switch
RSI.
over to your screen and do a bit of just demonstrate the Bollinger Bands and the squeeze indicator for everybody.
Okay,
I'll turn off my screen.
that's right. I'll just share to you as well. So you
Do I
can see.
turn off my screen, or will yours
That's
just take
fine.
over?
Mine will come over.
Okay.
So, right, what did you want? What did you want to hear? Sorry.
Oh yeah, about your squeeze indicator, your Bollinger Bands. Just
So,
talk a little bit.
so I think there was a squeeze on here, which has brought us down in price a fair bit. This is on the daily on Bitcoin. I actually tend to find that this squeeze works a lot more ballistically when it's a shorter squeeze. So you've got quite a long squeeze here from the 7th of July through to the 17th of July, and it's been sort of gradually squeezing. We've come down, and as the squeezes come off, we also know that all the short squeeze from was it Bitfinex that was all closed off, and that's one of the reasons why we've come up since. But if we look back over time, we can see that the squeeze indicator has indicated quite a big move when we've just had a couple of dots that have been as the oscillator has been crossing from a bearish part of the oscillator up into bullish. We can see we can see that that's created quite a huge move upwards. So we've come from 34,000 here right up to 58,000, and likewise the bull run, when it first sort of really kicked off in October, we had a squeeze that started here. We were at that point at 10,000 roughly, and we came right up to 44,000 before really having any kind of serious correction. That's some move there if you got in at this point, isn't it, really? So, looking at the 4 hour, wait for the squeeze indicator to load. So actually we can see that we've got a squeeze here that's been in a bearish direction. We've also had a red blood diamond that's indicated the same thing, that we were going to go down. So you could use those two things in confluence to say there's definitely a case here for us going down. These red blood diamonds quite often on the 4 hour mean that there's going to be some serious drastic downwards action. We've come down as we've hit a bottom, which I'm pretty sure was the day that both you and I said in the group that we thought that was going to be a very good buying day. Then we've come back up again.
Mm-hmm.
We actually yesterday went slightly above that crucial line of resistance before coming back down again, Bilo, because I'm pretty sure I magnetised this to the candles up here. Yeah, I did. So these points of resistance, I'd magnetised them to make sure that I knew exactly when we were gonna cross it, and we've come just above it and then come back down again. But yeah, these squeezes, a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, they indicate quite drastic moves. So here we've had this blood diamond, and we've come down from 35,000 down to 32,000. And whilst in the grand scheme of things that might not seem like a lot, I can assure you that that say if you were invested in VeChain or something here, and then we had this $3,000 move on Bitcoin, I can promise you that you'd have been in a world of pain for the time that we were going down at that point, as Bitcoin
Very valid point.
pressed on VeChain. And this is one of the reasons why both Bilo and I talk about paying more attention to the Bitcoin chart than to the actual altcoin charts, because quite often you can trade your altcoins just purely based on Bitcoin's action. So if you see that you've got a down, like you've got a good chance of going down like here, then that's a good time where you see this red blood diamond to sell one of your altcoins. I mean, do you know what? If it's not for a great deal of money, you could do it as an experiment to begin with, to see how it works out for you, and just sell a small amount of it at the top here. Let it ride, and then when you see that you get a green candle again, buy back in. It doesn't matter if you don't hit the absolute bottom, as long as you know that you're not going way down, because you've still accumulated more coins anyway. And if your whole point of being in crypto is to accumulate more crypto because you believe in crypto and you believe that you're going to be better off in the long run, which I can almost assure you that you are, then that would be a perfect time to do a bit of accumulation, to sell the red at the top of the red, buy back as it hits the bottom, or in fact, if you believe in the coin, to buy in at any point on the way down. I know they say don't catch a falling knife, but if you believe in the project and you've done your research on it and you know that it's going to do well in the long run, then is it really catching a falling knife? Probably not. It's probably going to be considered more of a good case for accumulation. Where are we? Like, for instance, Elrond Gold here. Elrond Gold has hit. Let's get to the daily. Have a quick look at the daily. Yep. Right, so Elrond Gold has hit $244 at its all-time high. It's currently at $88, and the EMA ribbon is sort of starting to potentially turn a bit bullish. If we come up and we reach a higher high, then you could consider it to be a case that we are back in bullish momentum. Although it does look a little bit more like we might do a bit more accumulating as the moving averages are crossing down bearish here. So this would be a good time for accumulation for Elrond Gold, as you wait for Bitcoin to do its thing. Take the rest of the ships higher. So you could accumulate Elrond Gold if you believe in it as a chain and as a project, and then you'd be safe in the knowledge that actually, with it being such a great project, that there's a good chance it's going to go higher than its previous all-time high at 246, and we're currently at 88. I wouldn't suggest that there's much chance of it going a great deal lower than its base point here, which was 53. So any accumulation between here and there, or probably more like here and 65, which was this next low point, would be a good buy-in price, or DCAing, as Bilo put it. I have asked in the chat if any of you would like to know about any coins, or you would like us to chart anything, if there's any FA that we might be able to help you with. But it doesn't seem like anybody has actually asked any questions this week. Bilo, do you have anything else that you want to add, or anything you'd like me to look at?
No, the only thing is we've started this segment a few weeks back, looking at on-chain data. And again, it's something that I personally am learning myself. I'm no expert, but it's really interesting to see what's happening on-chain. And unless you want to go deep dive, it's free. So I don't know if you want to share, just go to one of the tabs, Pumpy, just go to CryptoQuant, for example. We could talk a little bit about what we see on chain.
Bear with me.
So on-chain data, guys, it just gives us an insight onto what's happening overall. It doesn't take into account, TA, FA. It's just raw data of what's happening. So if so if we look at, for example, BTC, all exchanges reserve, as the price is going up, the reserves, according to this chart, are stable. It's funny, mine shows something different. Hold on, let me just see something here.
You're more than welcome to reshare if you like.
Yeah, it's just weird. Screen.
Sure.
Huh. You know what? I will reshare mine.
Sure.
Share screen. So here, you see why I was saying it's weird? Look at this. You don't see that on your screen. That is weird. So the thing I wanted to show you guys is, so this is all exchanges reserve. Reserve means what's being held, Bitcoin being held on an exchange.
Why it is, Bilo. It's because I'm not signed
Why?
in and you are.
Oh, okay, possibly. Okay. So what's interesting, guys, is here's the 30K level. And as Bitcoin was going up, we saw that the reserves or the amount of Bitcoin being held on exchanges was stable. And now that if I can pinpoint the date, can I, on or around July 26th, reserves on exchanges started to go down, meaning that people started, or institutions, whales, whatever you want to call it, the amount of Bitcoin being held on exchanges started to drop. And that is usually a bullish sign. That just means that people are not looking to sell their Bitcoins. So once you see Bitcoin flow onto an exchange, although there's other uses for it, it could be to buy other alts, it could be to long, to short, whatever. Generally speaking, once you see a large amount of Bitcoin flow into an exchange, it's a sign to be weary, because these are people that either have plans to sell those Bitcoins or are worried about a dump and want to have the means to sell their Bitcoin very quickly before the dump occurs. You saw this recently with Grayscale, for example. We can see this in one of these charts. With Grayscale, in July, middle of July, what did I do? In the middle of July, we saw that there was Grayscale was about to unlock, I don't know how many thousand Bitcoins, and they were going to be sold. And there was a fear, a legitimate fear, that Bitcoin was going to dump due to all this very quick supply onto the market. And now my charts don't work. Here you go. Okay. So there was this anticipation, and around that period, which we will see, right, all exchanges inflow. How do I zoom in without losing the chart? Oops, no, that's not what I want. Help. Zoom out. Here it is. Okay. Sorry, guys, bear with me. Here it is, July 14th. You see this peak in inflow into the exchange on July 15th, 14th, whatever the date is exactly. There was this huge spike in Bitcoin coming onto the exchanges. This didn't result in a massive dump. This was precautionary because of the unlocking of Bitcoins by Grayscale. So all this Bitcoin came onto the exchanges during that period because of that. And then a few days later, we had more Bitcoin come on because people were unsure again. Is there gonna be a retrace? Because around these levels, remember, we've been talking about it for a while. One of the main resistances when we were below it was the EMA on the 200 EMA on the 4 hour. And this is where that would have occurred, somewhere in this region, if you go back and look at your charts. So or the daily, I can't remember, one of the two. But Bitcoin came onto the exchange because there was that fear again that we were not going to pass it and that we were going to be rejected at that critical level. As you can see, all this Bitcoin that came onto an exchange did not result in a dump. So it doesn't necessarily mean that because Bitcoin's coming onto an exchange that we're going to dump, like many people believe, but it's something to take notice of and try to analyze the reasons behind it. If it's coming out of nowhere, I would say be careful. If there's a reason, like we're coming across onto a resistance, there's going to be some caution that, people with a lot of Bitcoin are not keeping their Bitcoin on an exchange. It's usually cold storage, hard wallets, and they're going to move it onto an exchange to be able to sell. So around the region where we're going to have a potential dump, because we're coming across a resistance, because there's something that's coming on the market, there's bad news, whatever the case may be, you will most likely see an inflow into the exchanges for people to have the liberty, the potential to sell their Bitcoin. So these are things that are interesting to look out for. Something else that I find interesting, and you will find it interesting as well, I believe, is if you look at the addresses holding Bitcoin, have just been going up. Okay, it's this line here. And that just means that there's more and more adoption. So with Glassnode, with the free version, you have access to all this information. So you look at addresses with more than 0.01 Bitcoin, for example. Well, it's been going up. It went it went down here, followed, then goes back up, and now it's just on an uptrend above 0.1. It's on an uptrend above 1. It's on an uptrend above 10. It's on an uptrend and flattening out above 100. I mean, now we're talking a lot of Bitcoins. It's on a downtrend above 1K. It's on an uptrend. So look at this, guys. This is where you're talking whale regions. It's on an uptrend. So whales are accumulating. Institutions are accumulating. It's just curious, above 10K, 10,000 Bitcoins. Okay, it's on a bit of a downtrend following this here. So, you could read into it in many different ways, but to me, the general direction is up. Mass adoption for me is more important to see than whales, because whales are a few and the masses are many. And mass adoption is where you're going to be looking at the 0.01, above 0.01, which is up, above 0.1, which is up, above 1, which is up. This is your average crypto investor. This is so bullish because it's more addresses that are holding crypto, Bitcoin in this case, just signs of mass adoption. And at the end, for crypto to survive, it can't be a few gajillionaires that hold it. It has to be everybody and everywhere. So these are all very positive, bullish signs for this space in general. Just wanted to share that with you guys. And that's about it, I think, for today. And like Pumpeye said, we do these every week, and we encourage you guys to come on and ask questions and request maybe some TA, some charts. We do our best to answer, and obviously we're always there in the chat. We have a big team, and our main goal is to educate and help and inform and be informed. We can learn from you, and you can learn from us. So please feel free to always join us and comment and share your thoughts. Thank you again for joining us today. Follow us on YouTube. We would really appreciate you liking our content. Aside from the weekly TA, we have a lot of educational videos that were put out by Borg, one of our teammates, ranging from how to create wallet to how to stake to how to bridge coins, so many different educational videos that you could definitely benefit from. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, Bilo.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Dave.
Have a nice Sunday.
You too.